remember that functional groups are going to have various chemical properties. Okay. So, the most important ones that we need to remember are, non-polar, polar. We need to be able to look at something and determine if that molecule is going to be polar or non-polar. We know that charged are going to also be hydrophilic, polar is going to be hydrophilic, non-polar should be hydrophobic. Okay. Our 4 classes of biomolecules: carbohydrates, nucleic acids, proteins, and lipids. Carbohydrates are going to be found in mono, di, and polysaccharides. Their functions are mostly energy and structure. Okay. Our nucleic acids our monomers are called nucleotides, and these are the information storage molecules to build proteins. Okay, proteins are made up of amino acids, so these are monomers, and that form follows function. So our 3-dimensional shape, our primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structure is really important for the function of that protein. Lipids are pesky little friends because they don't have a nice monomer polymer pattern like all the other 3 classes do. Fatty acids are important contributors. They're kind of the basic starting point that we're going to modify. And the other thing that you guys need to know is that phospholipids form membranes. Those can be, let me just draw. Let me draw these again. Okay, so a phospholipid, we're going to start with our glycerol backbone. We're going to slap 2 fatty acid tails on one side. On the other one, we're going to put in our phosphate group. Phosphate groups are charged, so they're hydrophilic. Fatty acid tails are non-polar, so they're hydrophobic. Okay. And that interactions with the water is going to form our membranes. We're going to spend a whole chapter talking about membranes. All right, I like this visual summary. It's a little table that allows us to see the comparison of our macromolecules. So our polymer, let's start with carbohydrates. An important cellular structure, right? We're going to produce sugars in the chloroplasts of plants. Okay, that we're going to produce our monosaccharides in the chloroplasts. We're going to take a bunch of those monosaccharides and we're going to stick them together to form a polysaccharide. An example of that is starch. Okay. Nucleic acids, things that we've heard about before, chromosomes, right? These are for your DNA, they're composed of your DNA. Okay, DNA is the polymer. And on that polymer is composed of nucleotides as their monomer, and nucleotides have 3 parts. We have our 5-carbon sugar, we have our nitrogenous base, which could be A, C, G, T, or U if we're talking about RNA. And then our 3rd component is that phosphate group again. Remember, phosphate group negatively charged. Okay. Proteins you're made out of them. There's so many different kinds of proteins along all those cells, but we have a polypeptide, which is a string of amino acids that has the primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structures. Our monomers are amino acids that have our carboxyl groups, that have our amino group, and then have our R group. The R group is variable. It's what gives that amino acid its chemical properties. Okay, lipids, you can see are kind of separated. There's this little gap here because they don't have a nice little monomer polymer structure. If you were to twist my arm and make me say that there was a monomer, I would call it a fatty acid. Fatty acids can be saturated or unsaturated. Depending on if they are composed of only single bonds, between carbons. Or if there's one or more double bond, then it'll be saturated. Triglycerides. And phospholipids are the two important lipids that we talked about. Be able to explain how their structure is similar but different, and then how that changes how they interact with water. Here's a more complex table for your ease of studying. So this is going to give you, so this is found in your book. You've got your macromolecules. So let's start with our carbohydrates again. Okay. We have, oops, that was weird. Okay, we have examples of polysaccharides. Okay. Starch, glycogen, glucose, and chitin. You can tell me what their monomers are. Okay, what do they do? And where do we find those things? Okay, again, our nucleic acids, DNA and RNA are our polymers composed of nucleotides. DNA and RNA have different jobs. We'll talk a lot later in the course about those different jobs. And then we can give some examples. Okay. Proteins, polypeptides. Okay. We can have structural and functional polypeptides. Our monomers are amino acids again. Okay, you can give me examples of what they do and give me examples of the types of molecules of those that we might see. Okay. We talked about triglycerides and we talked about phospholipids. We did not talk about these other things, so you don't have to worry about these. Although we will come back and talk about cholesterol when we get to our membrane chapter. Just make sure that you're with your book that you're looking at these visual summaries, because we just did a big info dump, but seeing it all summarized on one page in a visual way can really help sort it out. Okay. All right. Let me know if you have questions.